We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. A man is not free unless government is limited. An informed patriotism is what we want. But still watch closely. And don't be afraid to see what you see.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report.
Well, hello, America. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Monday, April 14th, 2014 edition of Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, broadcasting live from PRN Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Today, we are also being simulcast on Revolution Radio, the Hawk's Nest Show, over at freedomslips.com. Welcome, everybody. Hello to all of our old and our new listeners. Thank you for joining in. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my great co-host, George Norton, will be here shortly to join me, and we appreciate you tuning in. Our call-in number is 714-888-7404, but hold off calling for a while till we get further into the show. We also have our chat rooms open, both at Blog Talk Radio and right here at PRN Radio. Like I said, they're both open for you. Our incredible colleagues, Lynn, AstroTurf, and Famous Anna, are in the chats, putting all the links to our docs and sources and everything else into the chat, so you have them available to you as a courtesy. And thank you very much, ladies. You're going to be hearing from them and other members of our team in a few minutes, as we have so much to share today. But before we go any further, we must first do our disclaimer, and that's just to let the FCC and the feds and anyone else who might be interested know that whatever's said on this show is solely my responsibility and not that of our gracious hosts, the Watchmen of America and the PRN Radio Network. The disclaimer goes like this. The comments made by hosts and or guest hosts or phone callers of the PRN Radio Network do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else of the members of the Watchmen of America program or the Patriot Resistance website, either in past, present, or even future broadcasts. Well, now that that's out of the way, we're going to start the show, but I want to give you a little update, a little outline here. Today we're going to bring you the real story behind this Bundy Ranch siege. I'm sure you all have heard about it, and I'm sure you all know that this is allegedly about saving some turtles or that Bundy didn't pay his grazing fees, but all of that's untrue, and we're going to set out to prove it. As we go through the show, we're going to outline the facts, the documents, and the history. Our colleagues, our incredible colleagues, have been researching diligently, and they have uncovered a whole slew of information. We'll have reports from some of them, and we'll also have a report from our correspondent who has been and still is at the Bundy Ranch since this saga began. And she's going to be bringing us an update from the scene. In the meantime, we're going to set up a roundtable with our in-studio reporters and researchers. Carol Ray, Cheryl B. might be here, Kel Shue, and later on, Color Me Red, that will be here, and they're going to blow you away with what we've found. Each will spend a few minutes outlining their discoveries and their analysis, and then after that we're going to do a roundtable to clarify any questions or anything you don't understand or would like some more information about. We'll open up the phone lines at the end and take questions from the chat room as well. Our on-scene reporter, Lisa, will be calling in, and when she does, we're going to interrupt our report and give her the floor, as her situation on the ground will take precedent. But after that, we'll pick up where we left off after her call, of course. So without further ado, let me open up Joanne's microphone. I'm Joanne. Open up JoJo's microphone. All right, I'm Joanne today. And then we're going to start the show. Welcome, JoJo. I did so good reading that right up until it came time to say your name, and I said mine instead. Hey, JoJo, everybody. This is JoJo Norton, my great co-host.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Lisa, I was on the phone with Lisa. That's why I'm running a tad bit late. She just called, said they're on their way to Overton, that they had followed or saw a black SUV escorted by state police, and they think that the roads are blocked that Santilli was talking about is in the Overton area, and that's where they're headed right now. So she probably won't call in for 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's okay. You know, this Bundy Ranch siege, at first, you know, it didn't seem so big, but it got really, really big. And I got to tell you and tell all our listeners that our team has been so diligent and so fantastic, and you wouldn't believe the things that they have found. This is nothing to do with turtles. This is all about, you know what we always say here, follow the money. This is about money. It's about power. It's about screwing ranches. It's a mess. So we're going to talk to everybody today about this. And like I said, we're simulcasting tonight with Revolution Radio. And the show that we're simulcasting on is Hawk's Nest Show. They're over at freedomslips.com. And, of course, we're right here with the Watchmen of America at PRN. And here's my weekly shout-out to the Watchmen of America. They're a fantastic program, and if you don't know who they are, I got to tell you, they're the most benevolent people I've ever met in my life, and I'm really proud to know them. So, way to go, Watchmen. So, JoJo, let's start with you. What do you have been a busy girl.
Yeah, this all started last Monday or Tuesday morning. I got a little message from some insider people, and it was kind of like a riddle me Batman thing. And they gave me like 3 riddles, and it was on from there. And my riddles were to look up Indian land transfer, copper, and the Carcier fix. So, of course, you know me, I started in on it, and it has just kind of developed from there. The Carcier fix is a bill that's been in the House that has to do with Indian tribal lands and transfer. And this leads back to Harry Reid, too, of course. The Carcier fix is Senate Bill 676. And what they were hoping is during the lame duck session the last few months ago that Harry Reid would get this through Congress. I don't know that he has. We were trying to look and see if it was stuck on the bottom of the Farm Bill or something, but I don't know just yet. And they wanted to give it some serious consideration and have clear and specific standards so it would be a legitimate tribal need. Basically, what I get out of all this I'm fixing to tell you is the feds are trying to smooth the Indians into thinking they're giving them this land transfer deal and to give the Indians a whole bunch of land back, and then, of course, they're just going to use and abuse it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. The Carcier fix, the background of it is the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. It's also known as the Indian New Deal. What it does, it authorizes the Secretary of the Interior to acquire land and hold it in trust. Now, the Interior is going to get the land held in a trust for the purpose of providing land for the Indians, and it gives them certain rights and stuff. The Dawes Act of 1887, that was the act that was designed to assimilate the Indians into the American society, and that's when they broke them all up into reservations and into private property. And but they didn't assimilate well. They didn't assimilate well at all. So one of the most controversial provisions of the Indian Reorganization Act is it allows the U.S. government, acting through the Interior Department and the Bureau of Indian Affairs, to acquire non-Indian land and to take it into trust for the Indians. Now, by doing that, the U.S. government at least partially removes the land from the state's traditional jurisdiction. Thereby, it exempts it from certain state laws, to include environmental laws, land use regulations, and property and other taxes. And some of the things they've done, the Bureau of Indian Affairs has backed off from because they didn't feel like it was illegal. Now, basically, when the feds come in and take the land from, say, Nevada, it takes away the tax base for Nevada. And what Kelly and I found out last week, that the federal government owns between 80 and 90% of the whole state of Nevada. So, that's something nobody ever knew before. So, therefore, the Nevada tax base is, I guess, pretty low. What they wanted Congress to do, and the best way I can explain this fix, when this Cartier bill was put into place, I believe it was in 1934, it only included 50 Indian tribes. Now, if they can get the so-called fix, then that will delete that piece of legislation, and they can start a new legislation, which will include many more Indian tribes plus Alaska and Hawaii. I don't know what their plans are for Alaska and Hawaii, but we can just imagine, and I think everybody have a pretty good idea when we get through. Now, one of the things the insider person wanted me to know and wanted me to let people know is this isn't just about Nevada. It includes Montana, Nevada, Idaho, New Mexico, California. The Indian tribes will receive exclusive water rights, and by saying we, means taxpayer, will be paying Indian tribes to receive our own water at rates set by them. Each tribe will negotiate how much water they own, rates will be set, then millions upon millions that is already set aside will start flowing to redirect the water to tribe lands via pipelines and to reservoirs. I found out there was 300 water pipelines, 300 miles of water pipelines in Nevada. All right. Now, a lot of this, most of it goes back to the Paiute Indians, also the Shoshones. But that's kind of how this Cartier fix kind of ties into this. So write that down if you want to Google that later, Cartier fix. And the spelling is, because I may be saying it wrong, C-A-R-C-I-E-R-I. That's how you spell it if you want to Google it later. And for any people out west and from Nevada that are listening, I'm probably sure I'll mispronounce some things here tonight, but just don't take it too personal. The Reed bill, he also, hang on a minute, I'm fixing to get out of order. The Moapa and the Paiutes, those are two Indian tribes, they were suing the Nevada Energy Company. Now, Reed came along and said that he was behind the Paiutes. And Reed said he was hopeful that the Paiute solar energy projects will revitalize the tribe. Now, back to the Riddle Me Batman deal. I was also supposed to look into copper and the Indian land transfers, okay? So what I found out when I first started searching was some copper mines. And there's some copper mines that have been closed. One, the Anaconda, was closed in 1978. And the Indians were pretty hacked off at the people that were mining there because they ruined their water. Now, the Indians like to have the copper mine back open. Reed's, patting them on the head, telling them that he's going to produce 800 jobs in this one area called Yarrington, Nevada. And they have a big land transfer deal going, too. And they also have uranium mines, okay? So the Anaconda well was closed because of some environmental problems with their water. They said that 79% of the wells that was tested north of this copper mine was polluted with uranium or arsenic, and it made the water unsafe. So, hey, Joanne.
Yeah.
I'm fixing to lose my battery, so can you talk a minute and let me call back on my other phone?
Yeah, also, Kelshu is here. So, Kelly, you want to fill in while we wait for her to call back on the things that you and she have helped find?
Sure. Hello,
okay.
everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kel Shute, one of our amazing colleagues. Go ahead, Kel.
Let's see. I don't know. I had my mind on talking about something else. I'm not quite sure where she was.
That's okay. Go ahead and talk about what you wanted to say.
Okay. Well, it's kind of tied in. These land transfers. There's they formed this commission.
Mm-hmm.
The Sagebrush Rebellion, which happened a long time ago, but in some of these states didn't. Just a minute here. Some of these states never
Sorry,
transferred
I put you on the
forward.
spot there.
I know. Yeah, I'm all right. So they never transferred these land grants, and so there's this committee that is trying to do this, made up of all these commissioners, and they actually think that they might be getting somewhere. But in this conversation, they said that the problem was that when the BLM first started, doing this, that actually they were all right, but then they took on this whole new character, and they became like the Shadow Company and the Center of Biodiversity, which I know you're going to get into later. Their mantra, according to this guy, is sue and settle. They just sue and settle it. And the reason that it's important for these cattle to stay on the land because it keeps the access to the land open. So for many reasons, it's important that those cattle stay there while they straighten all this legal business out. They call it I'm flipping around here in my computer. They call it a Assembly Bill. It's Assembly Bill 227, and it's going on right now. I mean, they meet 4 times a year. They're supposed to report on it by the end of September, and then by 2015, it should be, if all goes well, it should be,
Now, what does this committee do, this assembly?
They are trying to find ways, thank you for straightening me out, this guy's name is Delmar Dahl, and he's the Elko County Commissioner, and so all these commissioners from these different counties, of which Collins is the Clark County representative, so that's, But the task force has 17 members from each county, and they have these 4 meetings, and they are tasked to gather information to
are they like doing land assessment, or are they having
they're trying to. It's all about state land versus federal land. They're trying to get their state back, is what they're trying to do. And all these states have the option to do this. There's a big long history of which some are probably better versed than me. But in 1932, there's the except for the original 13 colonies, they were letting people homestead, and they were allowed to come out here, and the land was theirs. Right. And if they homestead it, and then they were worried about the railroads coming out there and all this,
Is that the equal
modernization, And so, bureaucracy got involved, and then in 1976, I believe was the year, they just stopped it altogether and said you can't be doing that, and the government just took it, and there were. It seems when I've been reading this that this flip-flops the conservative people suddenly take on the liberal people's point of view, and then the liberal people suddenly take on the conservative people's point of view, and it depends upon what the issue of the moment is, and it's been very confusing. But it seems like the cattlemen have maintained their feelings about it all along, and the reason that is important is to understand one reason why Mr. Bundy feels the way that he does, because he's been dealing with it for his whole life. And so, but I thought it was really interesting that they said that initially, now I'm talking way back, before the 70s, that the BLM were actually the good guys. And they took on this, and this man, this representative from Utah and Nevada are tied up in this together many ways. And this representative, I'm trying to find you his name, is Mike Knoll. He's a Utah representative. He said Nebraska managed to get most of their land back. They're the only state in this group that has been able to do that. But I thought it was really interesting. They were supposed to all get it, and then the government didn't honor their promise, and that the BLM just became the shadow government. They're supposed to be, They're supposed to be land management, and they're supposed to be overseeing. Right, they're supposed to be protecting resources, not doing highway patrol, and not forcing laws, and they really don't have any right to do that, and so there's a lot of history to this. And that guy, Dan Love, wasn't Dan Love the guy in one of those videos that was that was speaking so boldly to one of those reporters? Was it on Pete Santilli's show? Anyway, this guy said, he also said that the Bureau of Land Management, those guys make 3 times what the sheriffs get. They make like $100,000 a year or more, each one of them. And he said that every time they brought one of these laws to him, Dan Love would cancel it every single time in the state of Nevada and Utah. And those contracts have been in place for 10 or 12 years, some of them, these newer ones. Every time they try to, get this land transferred back to them, he just bucks them every single time. And he really doesn't have the right to do it, and I don't really know why he's being allowed to do it. But of course, why is anybody being allowed to do anything? So
that's a good question. Yeah, this Bureau of Land Management was set up when the District of Columbia became district. Right. And it was set up with what is called the Equal Footing Clause. That clause says that in federally maintained land, the states have equal say in it. Also, when the state of Nevada was incorporated as a state, they were supposed to receive some of that federal land. I guess it's upwards of 80% of the land in Nevada is owned by the feds, allegedly. And why would you even bother being a state if the feds own you? So that's where this Equal Footing Clause came in, and it was only specifically for the District of Columbia, but they extended it so that the feds could keep the land that they were supposed to turn over to these states. It's like you said, it's not just in Nevada. It's in Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico, Arizona,
Montana, Idaho.
Yep. So you're absolutely right there, my friend.
This friend of his said that is running this committee there, said that what happened down there where he was, the reason that all those ranchers don't ranch anymore is because they closed the grazing in Clark County, and Bundy was the only one who refused to do it. He just bucked them, and he said, and look, he's the only one still there. He's the only one. I mean, he's the only one making a living, even though it's hell on him right now. So he said, he made a choice, and that was his choice that he made, and so who's sorry last? It's just right. At some point, you have to stand up. Hey, JoJo.
This goes back to the land transfers. See, they were taking the land transfers, telling the Indians they were going to open copper, uranium. They also have a nuclear waste problem there. I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. I was going to say something. Go ahead.
They were also talking. They want to make this a wilderness site, and this is, the green energy, eco green stuff, and hang on, I got to send somebody our calling number. Okay. So the ranchers were against this wilderness transfer thing because they feared it would limit grazing, and then basically they wanted to take the land, transfer it to a wilderness thing, and Harry Reid wanted to call it the Wokvoka, V-O-V-O-K, wilderness. And Reid says he would only support like the Yarrington land transfer if it included this wilderness area. And then, the cattlemen knew it would limit grazing because we're talking thousands and hundreds of thousands of acres over all the state of Nevada. And some of them are in Gold Butte, some of it's in Yarrington, some of it's in Lyon County, the things that we read about anyway. Now, the whole deal was, part of the powder puff part of this is they were telling people that they had to turn it into a wilderness area for camping, photography, off-road vehicle riding, and like a wilderness place for people to take their families and go play, so to speak. So in some of the acreage, like in Gold Butte alone, they were talking about they were going to designate 350,000 acres, with 129,000 of it going toward this wilderness thing, and this is all south of Mesquite. So I guess south of Mesquite, somewhere near the Bundy Ranch. And they were, playing it up as the quote-unquote go-to destination, and they wanted multiple uses, and they wanted to sustain it with a balanced management approach. And one of the things we found was the CLEAR Act, and that's H.R. 3534. And according to Louis Gohmert, my man Louis, he said the bill was to deal with the disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. But this bill was written in 2009. The disaster hadn't occurred yet. So that kind of was a red flag going up. And the bill, like I said, it was introduced in 2009. And Gohmert says the Fed will own or manage 30% of the land in the United States. Lord have mercy, everybody's trying to get me. Hang on a second. The Feds will own or manage 30% of the land in the United States. And that 30% of the land in the United States takes that land off the tax payroll. And then it gives, of course, the Feds, they get to utilize it. And it all leads to the Agenda 21 stuff, the water grabs and all that stuff. And I'm sure Carol Ray is going to get to some of that. One thing I found out is uranium mining is off limits in the United States, according to this CLEAR Act. 90% of the uranium is imported for the use in our nuclear energy plants. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And in 2011, the Feds reversed their land deal with the Shoshone Paiute tribe, and they were trying to thwart its off-reservation economic development. They were trying to do this big deal with a lot of money and economic development for the Duck Valley. And the tribes wanted gambling, agriculture, and light manufacturing. But the Bureau of Indian Affairs said that the deal violated federal law. So that deal, the Duck Valley Act, I guess got thrown off the table. And they said it was pretty embarrassing because the Feds were approving a land transfer, and then they were taking the land in violation of the regional directors. So, we have the Wovoka Wilderness Project that has to do with the land transfer. We have the Yarrington problem with the polluted mines, the Anaconda well. If I remember right, I think they want that up and running by 2015. The copper was discovered in Nevada in 1865, and the Anaconda mine was built in 1941. They started trying to develop yellow cake in the 1970s. Yellow cake. How about that, huh? And then we found in the Defense Authorization Bill that was put forth December 21st, 2012, and it was on its way to the president that day. And Section 3151, it states, it requires the Secretary of Energy, in consultation with the Department of Interior and the Environmental Protection Agency, to review and report on abandoned uranium mines in the United States that provided uranium ore for atomic energy defense activities of the United States on federal, state, and tribal lands. Now, what I got told by another insider was under Truman, he believes it was Truman, the military used to be in charge of these uranium mines back then. And then sometime under Truman, possibly Eisenhower, they took that right away from the military and gave it to the politicians. So now the politicians are the ones that oversee that. and it got put under the Department of Energy to control the uranium. And then I read this article where Louis Gohmert says that 90% is imported for our nuclear energy. But this was under the Defense Authorization Bill, so this has to do with the uranium that's used for nuclear, like nuclear armament. That's the way I'm reading that. So, we use 1 grade of uranium for nuclear power, and then, of course, another grade for nuclear bombs. So we have Lyon County, which is where Yerington, Nevada is. We have Clark County, which is the Bundys are. And then we have that other county. And there's also in the Yerington copper mine, a company called Cotera Resources is the one that bought that mine. And one of the reasons is, they know that copper is going to be tight for 10, 15 years because of what's happening in Asia and all the financial stuff and all, the way the economy's going with minerals and all that stuff. So this mine in particular, the one in Yerington, was unused for a long time, so it's partially filled with water now, but they're okay with that. They said it was cheaper to do that. And so basically, public lands, it's been going on strongly since 2009. It actually kind of started in the 90s with Clinton. But so basically, in a nutshell, I guess the best way we can say this is they're trying to transfer a whole lot of acreage into the trust, put it into a land trust for the Indians. They're trying to sell the Indians on jobs and economic relief with copper mines, uranium mines, and a wilderness project so they can all go camping or whatever and take pictures of little grouses and turtles and whatever they're telling them. I'm not sure. So, and then that's where we are on that. And we're talking about a lot of acreage. They want to sell one town. I guess they're going to take the land in a land transfer. Then they want to turn around and sell the land, 19 square miles of land, to a town at a fair market value. So they're going to take the land from the state, put it in federal hands, then resell it to a town, 19 square miles of it.
After they strip the mineral and water rights from the land, then they're going to sell it.
The water rights is a huge, huge thing. So that's basically the most of what I have. If you want to turn 5 minutes, I did want to cover a couple of things to clear. Let me just go over the CLEAR Act real quick. This is kind of sort of what Louis Gohmert was talking about, and this is what my red flag is. It's about who owns the West and the percentage of the total state land area that's been taken over by the federal government. Now, the red flag here is 2009. Gohmert said that the bill was to deal with the disaster in the Gulf of Mexico, but it contains plans for the federal government to acquire land, and it was introduced in 2009. We didn't have a disaster till April the 20th, 2010. So they wrote this a year before we had the BP disaster?
Exactly.
That's the way I'm reading it.
Isn't that fishy?
All right. Well, I'll sit back and one of our other researchers come on now.
All right. Well, Kel's still on the line. Kel, anything you want to add to what JoJo said, hon?
Hey.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Before we go, because Mike sent me a message. They got on the air over at freedomslips.com about 4 minutes after we started, so I want to get another big shout-out to everybody at freedomslips.com at Revolution Radio. We appreciate very much y'all listening, and appreciate Mike for helping simulcast our show. So thank all of you very much for listening to us, and hope you enjoy it. Okay, Kel, cheers now.
Okay, well, I said basically what I want to say. I mean, there's a lot to say.
There is.
I mean, it's just overwhelming. But
well, while we wait for Carol, there's a few things I want to bring up. As you know, all of you know, that the Bundy Ranch is under siege. I don't know if everybody's been watching the videos in the alternative media all week, but the Bureau of Land Management, that we call BLM, have been there. They had taken Mr. Bundy's cattle that were grazing on this alleged public land. Now, as the ladies just said, yeah, it's public land, but it's not for the public to use. What they've done is they've stripped the mineral rights and water rights from the land, and now the feds are selling this land out to different corporations. if it comes to find out, there is a lot of solar corporations that are interested in this land. And there have been some shady deals going on with Harry Reid, his son, Rory Reid, and one of the people that was the head of Harry Reid's office. He was his chief of staff and now is head of the Bureau of Land Management, and that's extremely convenient. Now, the story with the Bundys is, if you listen to the liberals, the Bundys have been freeloading and they have been grazing their cattle on public land and not paying fees. Well, that's not exactly true. The Bundys were paying grazing fees to the state of Nevada, but the state of Nevada was not cashing their checks. This situation with them has been going on since 1993. In 1993, there was a whole bunch of changes over at the Bureau of Land Management. When the Bundys were paying for the grazing rights, they had a certain amount of cattle, as did 53 other ranchers who have been driven out of business. Incrementally, the Bureau of Land Management has been cutting back on their permitting. So the ranchers had to cut back on their herd. As it turns out, the ranchers ended up having to cut their herd so much that they could not make a profit and they were bankrupt. That was intentional. They raised the taxes, they raised the fees to make it prohibitive for these ranchers to stay in business. Mr. Bundy was one of the ones that did fight it. However, he did not have a lawyer. He just figured, he's a rancher, he's going to go in and tell the court what it is, like a normal person would do. He didn't know the ins and outs of the system. He didn't know that Harry Reid and his cronies. And, that people are saying, like, this is a local situation. It's not a local situation. The feds are the feds. They're not local. Obama could stop this in a minute. Harry Reid, who's also a Fed, he's a senator, he could stop it in a minute. But Harry Reid's making money off this. And the federal government is making money off this, not just from the ranches, but they are getting bids from companies. Even Rory Reid, who is Harry Reid's son, went over to China and started doing business. He got a new client, ENN Energy, who is also bidding for this land. Meanwhile, the Bundys have mineral rights. There's a story here that was written by a friend of the Bundys, and it says why Clive Bundy isn't wrong. This is a pretty good outline. If you give me a second, I'm going to just outline this. There have been a lot of people criticizing Clive Bundy because he did not pay his grazing fees for 20 years. The public is probably wondering why so many other cowboys are supporting Mr. Bundy, even though they paid their fees and Clive did not. What you people probably do not realize is on every rancher's grazing permit it says the following: you are authorized to make grazing use of the lands under the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Land Management and covered by this grazing permit. Upon your acceptance of the terms and conditions of this grazing permit and payment of grazing fees when due, the mandatory terms and conditions go on the list, the allotment, the number and kind of livestock to be grazed, when the permit begins and ends, the number of active or suspended AUMs, that's animal units per month, etc. The terms and condition also list specific requirements, such as where salt or mineral supplements can be located, maximum allowable use of forage levels, which is 40% of annual growth, etc., and include a lot more stringent policies that must be adhered to. Every rancher must sign this contract agreeing to abide by the terms and conditions before he or she can make payment. In the early 90s, the BLM went on a frenzy and drastically cut almost every rancher's permit because of this desert tortoise issue, even though all of us ranchers knew that cows and desert tortoises had coexisted for hundreds of years. As an example, a family friend had his permit cut by 90%. For those of you who are non-ranchers, that would be equating to getting your paycheck cut by 90%. In 1976, there were approximately 52 ranching permittees in the area of Nevada. Presently, there are 3. Most of these people lost their livelihoods because of the actions of the BLM. Clive Bundy was one of these people who received extremely unfair and unreasonable terms and conditions. Keep in mind that Mr. Bundy was required to sign this contract before he was allowed to pay. Had Clive signed on the dotted line, he would have, in essence, signed his very livelihood away. And so Mr. Bundy took a stand, not only for himself but for all of us. He refused to be destroyed by a tyrannical federal entity and to have his American liberties and freedom taken away. Also keep in mind that all ranchers financially paid dearly for the forage rights those permits allowed, not right to the land, but right to use the forage that grows on the land. Many of these AUMs are water-based, meaning that the rancher also has vested rights, state-owned, not federal, to the waters that adjoin the land and allow the livestock to drink. These water rights were also purchased at a great price. If a rancher cannot show beneficial use of the water, he must have the appropriate number of livestock that drinks and uses the water. Then he loses that water right. Usually water rights and forage rights go hand in hand. Contrary to what the BLM is telling you, they never compensate a rancher for the AUMs they take away. Most times they tell ranchers that their AUMs are suspended but not removed. Unfortunately, my family has thousands of suspended AUMs that will probably never be returned. And so, even though these ranchers, throughout the course of 100 years, invested thousands and perhaps millions of dollars and sacrificed along the way to obtain these rights through purchase from others, at a whim, the government can take everything away with the stroke of a pen. This is the very thing that Clive Bundy single-handedly took a stand against. Thank you, Clive, from a rancher who considers you a hero. So you see what happened there is they purposely put these ranchers out of business. Now, I'd like to get to the Center for Biological Diversity. Mm-hmm. The Center for Biological Diversity is a group that allegedly is in the business of watching out for these tortoises. Well, what they really are is a Soros front group. They are funded by the Tides Foundation, and you all know who the Tides Foundation is. It's Soros. It's Drummond Pike from the Weather Underground. I'm sure you've all heard of him. And some of their biggest donors are Teresa Heinz Kerry, the Sandlers, Soros, of course, and all these other groups. They're also tied in with the Sierra Club. Now, the Center for Biological Diversity did a study. That study was used in a Friends of the Court briefing. Now, remember, Mr. Bundy didn't have a lawyer, but the whole federal government came down on him. The Center for Biological Diversity was hired to do this study. I have in front of me a document that was written by the Center for Biological Diversity. It's addressed to Ms. Mary Jo Rugwell, Mr. Bill Dickinson, and guess who else? Mr. Rory Reed. He was the Clark County Commissioner before this guy Collins. We're going to talk about him in a minute, too. Excuse me. Anyhow, this says, in regards to cattle grazing in Gold Butte area, dear Ms. Rugwell and Mrs. Reed and Dickinson, I am writing you all together since I view this situation as a mutual problem that will require cooperation and coordination between your jurisdictions. In 2008, I submitted a FOIA request with respect to the status of grazing on Gold Butte. Through it, I learned that with the exception of some slight overlap from Arizona BLM allotments, all grazing had been terminated in response to the identification of much of the area as critical habitat for the threatened desert tortoise. And here are some of the highlights. In 1993, the BLM began administrative process to address grazing by permittee Clive Bundy, which was occurring without valid permit. In 1994, the BLM declared Mr. Bundy in trespass and ordered him to remove his cattle and pay a judgment against him. Mr. Bundy attempted to pay his grazing fees to Clark County, but the payment was properly rejected due to the county's lack of jurisdiction in the matter. In 1998, U.S. District Court entered an order granting the U.S. permanent injunction against Clive Bundy and his family and ordered him to remove his cattle. Mr. Bundy appealed the decision, and in 1999, the appeals court found in favor for the U.S. In December 1998, Clark County purchased the grazing rights to the Bunkerville allotment for $375,000 and retired them for the benefit and protection of the desert tortoise. So no matter what Mr. Bundy was doing, no matter what court and what appeals he was going through, they had already terminated the permitting, and they suspended everything, all grazing rights. That was even while this case was going on. Now, this, like I said, is a letter from the Center for Biological Diversity, and I told you who they were. They paid $300,000 for all of that land.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? So you have that. Now, a friend of Mr. Bundy sent some more details. He wrote, I live in southwest Utah. I grew up on a ranch less than 100 miles from the Bundy's ranch. My father knows Cliven Bundy. I know Cliven's son, Ryan. This is not a hoax. It's an action of forced by the BLM. The BLM was going to sell cattle at one of the smallest cattle markets in Utah. No cattle markets in Nevada would take the cattle without a properly signed brand inspection, which the BLM cannot obtain without Cliven Bundy's signature. The BLM paid the owner of the Utah cattle market $300,000 to do the sale. Boy, that $300,000 is a common number, huh? Anyhow, the Livestock Connection in Monroe, Utah, owned by one Scott G. Robbins, according to the Utah Business Entity Search. That's who got the $300,000 to try to sell Bundy's cattle. Utah Governor Herbert stepped in and forbid them from bringing the cattle into Utah without legally required health and brand inspections, which again require Bundy's signature, and that no feral cattle are allowed to be imported at all per Utah statute. Because Bundy claims ownership over maybe 350 to 500 head of branded cattle, the other 500 to 700 estimated head of cattle would all be considered feral. BLM officially backed off, but we suspect they're still secretly shipping them through Utah without any permission to do so to private buyers in Colorado. The contract cowboys that the BLM hired to do the roundup are from Sampson Livestock in Meadow, Utah. So when you hear about those contract cowboys, those are people that have lost their ranch or ranch hands, and they need jobs, so they hire themselves out, and BLM hired them to round up these cattle. Like I said, they're from Sampson Livestock in Meadow, Utah. From what I understand, Cliven Bundy owns both the water rights and the grazing rights to all of the land where his cattle run. If Bundy failed to use them, the grazing rights would revert to the BLM and would be retired, while the water rights would revert to the state of Nevada, likely to be sold to the highest bidder, which would probably be a bidding war between mineral companies that are behind this action with the BLM and the city of Las Vegas, which is thirsty for water and has had multiple attempts to buy water through eminent domain from Utah farmers and ranchers. From Utah, which were all blocked by the Utah legislation and Utah governor. Now, for Cliven Bundy, he's not fighting this for his cattle or his own livelihood. He recognized that he's probably going to die before this fight is over. He has said multiple times that he's fighting this to wake people up about the tyranny of the federal government and also to help wake up the western states about getting the rights to their own land back from the federal government, which has repeatedly shut down ranches and closed off land. And, you know, their M.O. is first get all the ranchers, the farmers, the Native Americans, and the foresters that use the land for positive, sustainable production off the land. Second, grab up all the resources. Third, close off the land to public access, including camping, hiking, horseback riding, hunting, fishing, boating, shooting, or anything else. And fourth, sell off the resources to the highest bidder, regardless of what that will do to the land, the local environment, or the economy. And the fifth, collect royalties on the resources in perpetuity. Sixth, reduce and eliminate all SLS and PILT payments to the states. So the federal government's even taken any of the grazing rights or any of that from, and the water rights from the state and taking it themselves. So his response to this now is, thank you for sending your valuable insight. This contained the details we were all missing. From this, we can now firmly conclude, 1, the BLM actions are not only flatly illegal, they are unlawful, and not only unlawful, they are so unlawful that it took bribing somebody with $300,000 payoff to get them to accept stolen cattle from a government agency. I don't think that could be topped anywhere else in the world other than with something like the Mexican drug cartel. So now we have a clear-cut case of unlawful and prosecutable actions by the BLM in this case. 2, the real goal is to shut down public access to these lands. Obviously, Cliven Bundy was not a jerk, and he let the people go back there to explore. I myself have done a lot of backcountry exploring and noticed in the early 2000s that they closed down all the back roads about a half mile before the destination they used to go to discourage people from exploring the wilderness. Rather than drive the whole way, you had to get out and walk a considerable distance to scenes such as Swazie's Leap, Paul Bunyan's Woodpile, and practically anywhere else you would want to go while out four-wheeling, and in the desert sun, so that long of a walk was usually a tough thing to do. This resulted in these types of locations no longer being visited, which effectively equaled a shutdown. The motives are for profit. Rather than manage the land responsibly, the BLM is stealing it from its rightful holders by way of corrupt actions and legal loopholes and selling it off to corporate interests. This is cold, hard proof that America is not a democracy or, more importantly, a republic. It is, in fact, a fascist dictatorship. This goes on, but it says steeped in arrogance and incompetence. Once again, the federal agency fails to see the obvious. So, you see, you have it there that they said if the land isn't any use, that they are not no longer necessary, so that they're going to take it over. And if they get rid of all those ranchers, they can do whatever they want. All right, now, after this, we got
Carol Ray here. Carol Ray's on the switchboard, too.
Okay, let's open up Carol Ray's microphone. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Lisa's 702. Carol, hold on. Lisa's on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our correspondent on the ground. Lisa, I'm sorry if you had to wait.
No, that's fine.
Hey,
Hi, guys. I just wanted to tell you that Rick and I, we're actually in Overton right now. The reason we came to Overton is when we heard that there was roads being blocked, we drove up to exit 112 where you get off of the I-15 going into Bunkerville. I posted a picture that was open. I posted a picture that the area around the rally was open. So then I heard that the blockage might be up in Overton where the standoff happened when that one BLM guy pushed Margaret down. So we got in a car and we drove up 20 minutes here into Overton. There's no roadblocks anywhere. We drove the entire way through Moapa Valley into Overton, about 5-6 miles out. And there's no BLM, there's no roadblocks, there's no nothing here. So what's going on? What's going on there now? Are there a lot of people there? When we left the rally, it was pretty much died down. Everybody pretty much left. We do have a friend back there. My friend James is still back there. And he told me if he sees any movement, he would let me know. So I don't know what's being said about, a raid on the Bundy Ranch, but it's completely 100% quiet there. There's no movement. And there's only one media truck left, so I would think if they were going to raid the Bundy Ranch, the media would stick around to get that.
What about the black SUV y'all were looking for that was escorted by a bunch of state troopers? Did you figure out who that was?
We saw them. They were heading north on the I-15, and there were 5 Las Vegas police cars escorting a black SUV with blocked-out windows. It never made it to the Bundy rally area or the Bundy Ranch. Everybody there said they've not seen anything. My friend James actually perched himself up on one of the mountainsides watching the road. They never saw it, so I don't know if they got off on the Overton area or if they went straight up into the Mesquite area. I don't know that yet.
Okay, what about you went to? Wait a minute, you went to the hotels and there was no more. There was no federal vehicles there. Is that true?
That's correct. And my one friend James, she's connected into the hotel industry, and she just confirmed to me this afternoon, Vicky Rick, there's nobody. There's no BLM left. Actually, militia members are staying at Casablanca and Virgin River. Now, last week, the BLM was staying there, but they're gone now.
What's the status of the cattle? I know that there's a bunch of babies with no mums, a bunch of mums looking for babies. I see that there were a couple of cattle killed, and I had noticed that you had put out a post to us that you had seen a couple of dead animals in your travel. Could you explain all that for us?
First of all, I want to say before I go into that, the Bundys have put out a call of distress. They are running out of milk for the baby calves that don't have mothers, and there's quite a few of them. So those must be the mothers that the BLM shot and buried because they're having a hard time finding them. I put up on my Facebook page, you can go to Bundy Blog Spot. It's on my Facebook page where you can donate money to get milk to the baby calves. It is a critical situation. So if anybody can donate $5, $10, please do so. They really need it.
I was wondering if there had any volunteer veterinarians that have come to help them.
Yes, they do. They have a vet. It's one that the Bundys have known. he's been volunteering. He's been looking after the baby calves, nursing them back to health, the ones that were injured and that were, there were some that were on the verge of dying because of malnutrition and dehydration. So, they are being looked after.
They lock these cows up in pens for 5 days with no water. Is that correct? No food or water.
They had troughs, but they had let the troughs go dry.
Oh,
so when the Bundys had physically gotten to the animals, the troughs were dry, and even if they did have water, the calves were too little to reach their heads up over into the trough. That's how irresponsible and how just downright dangerous these BLM agents are. They didn't even provide water for these baby calves or the mamas.
Oh, my God. That's
really,
animal abuse.
Really bad.
I was going to say, where's the animal control?
Exactly. It is animal abuse. You or I would be locked up in jail right now. We would have probably charges pending on us. Who knows how many?
Yeah,
so
if any one of those ranches... If any one of those ranchers had treated those animals like that, they would have immediately had their animals confiscated and they'd be sitting behind bars.
Oh, absolutely. And they would be faced with a litany of charges that they would not be able to get out of. So going back to the dead animals, they did find another dead bull today up on a hilltop. He had been shot from above, so a helicopter had flown above and shot him directly behind the base of the neck, dropped him up there, so that means 3 of 5 bulls have been shot. They did find more dead cattle scattered throughout the valley. There were cows that had been shot from above the helicopter. So basically what was happening is these BLM guys or Blackwater, whoever the hell these people are, were sitting in this helicopter and they were zipping across the valley and they were just ping, 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 just laying down cows one right after another.
Oh, my God.
Let me ask you, do we have confirmation that Blackwater was involved?
Not yet, no.
Okay, all right.
But there's not one person that has said that they believe this is BLM. These guys are trained. These guys have military tactical training.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, I don't want to say Blackwater because they might not be Blackwater, but they, I'm sure that there are some group. Yeah.
Let's just call them government contractors then, to be on the safe side. A possibility of government contractors.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But I can tell you I heard more than one person, including one of the Bundy sisters, that one of the guys has an Arab accent, and he does not speak good English. And
see, we've been hearing Middle Eastern and Russian accents. But there's been so much misinformation.
I've been getting the very same information, and this is coming from some of the Bundy family members that have come face to face with these men.
Well, that would make sense that they would have foreigners who don't have a loyalty to America, doing this type of behavior. You wouldn't get a patriot to do it.
If they don't take an oath, they don't have to abide by that now, do they? So that makes perfect sense.
Well, I'm glad to get confirmation on the accents because there's been so much misinformation out there. I didn't want to spread that rumor. Our group's trying not to spread any rumors at all. We're trying to go based strictly on facts.
Right. Well,
we have Well, is there additional federal presence moving in the area? Like, do they have a mobile command center? I'd seen pictures about that, but I don't know what the status of that or what the date of the pictures are. You see any federal buses or any type of paddy wagon buses or anything like that?
No, there's nothing like that. I've never seen anything like that. None of us that are on the ground have seen anything like that. The only vehicle that looked like a SWAT-type vehicle was on Saturday. It came up when the standoff was happening, but it left afterwards, and it has not been back. So, no, I just want to say, for the record, Rick and I have been at the Bundy Ranch since last Tuesday. Tuesday was our first day here. There was no DHS. There's been no Humvees with machine guns. Cars were not searched. Cars from out of state were not searched. Guns were not confiscated. The cell towers were not shut down ever because my cell phone worked the entire time, period. And, the days that they were saying that there were days that there was a guy in an ultralight flying around, so that wasn't true.
Helicopter.
And there was some different helicopters flying around. And
well,
they
said it was a 3,000 feet no-fly zone, so I guess that means you could fly either below or above it. I'm not sure what that means, but that's
well, I
did
see the FAA statement saying that there was a no-fly zone in effect there. I did see that. As a matter of fact, I have that statement here. I don't know if it's been lifted or not, though. But what type of helicopters and aircraft are you seeing? You said you saw one of those light aircraft. Do you have any idea who owns them? Are they helicopters? Are they newscopters?
Apparently, the ultralight was a guy who had a Twitter account, and he was actually filming everything that was going on. I mean, he was flying around for a good, 15, 20 minutes? Yeah, he was flying around for a good 15, 20 minutes all over the valley, filming everything, and then he crashed. So, but apparently there were people that had messaged me that said, yeah, this could happen because here's his Twitter feed, but I've lost it. So, yeah, there was a guy out in an ultralight and that was Friday? That was Friday.
Wow. Yeah.
So I don't know about this no-fly zone because I would imagine if this guy, they would have probably, I would assume, intercepted him, but he was flying all over the place.
I have another question. What are the Bundys saying about Harry Reid saying that this isn't over?
They have not made an official statement about that yet.
Okay. What else should we know about what's going on there? What else do they need? I say they need milk, but what about the people there? Are they set for supplies, foods? I'm sure they need money. I'm really upset about the baby cows. The most horrifying picture I saw was that baby calf being chased by the helicopter.
Yes.
Hold on. Because our boss, Freebird, just put a video in, and it's coming from, I hate to scroll, from the GOP Daily Dose, breaking news, more feds, cops, vehicles, equipment arriving at Bundy Ranch. And I just told him you're there, and you said no. But he said there's a video. Now, and I'm going to tell you some videos from some equipment that surfaced today that was allegedly uploaded to YouTube the 14th. After research, we found out that video was made Saturday. So if anybody out there's videoing anything, when you're videoing, say, okay, it's April the 14th, it's 9 a.m., and I am at mile marker, yada, yada. So we'll know exactly, because things are changing too fast. You know, somebody uploads a video from Sunday, and people think it's now. So I can't see the video Freebird's posting, so I can't collaborate what he's posting.
Yeah.
But
no, it's hard
for us. It's hard for us to tell where and everything's exactly happening. But you're there now, and you haven't seen anything, correct?
Well, we're just now coming out of Overton. We left the
You're at Overton, okay.
About 40 minutes ago. We're actually going to get right back. We're going to be at mile marker 93, get back onto the I-15 north, and we're going right back up to the Bundy Ranch. So who knows what's going on. But when we left, there was absolutely no movement. I do have a guy up there. He's literally Clive and Bundy's neighbor. He's a good friend of mine. And his wife grew up with a bunch of children. They've known him all their lives. So this is not, a contact that's itchy or sketchy. I mean, they're neighbors. They know these people. They grew up with them. So
is there an area within proximity of this public land or the ranch where the feds could do staging without being noticed?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. The area that we're talking about is extremely remote, and the roads are very difficult to navigate because they're not paved. They're old roads, so they're full of potholes and craters. Really, the only vehicles that should go on are ATVs. Oh, yeah, definitely. If you go out far enough, maybe a couple of miles away from the house, you could, and that's usually why they have a no-fly. They don't want anybody to find their camp.
There's still militia there.
So, but I can tell you there is militia hidden throughout the valley watching.
That was my next question. Is anybody doing recon?
Yes. Yep. There is militia there. And it's not just a few. There's a lot. They're not viewable. So they do have them scattered out throughout the property. I do know that there is some pretty sophisticated surveillance equipment set up. And from what I've been told, it's military grade.
Okay.
It's night vision, motion detection, and they have sophisticated audio. And that was confirmed today because when he was doing his press conference, if you were watching it live, you heard him say that alarms went off during the night, and it ended up being a false alarm. So that to me means either somebody tripped or something tripped one of the motion detectors they have set up out in the valley.
I'm loving that. I'm glad they're doing that.
Okay, so we're just now back on the highway, and we're heading back up to Bunkerville right now.
All right. If you see anything, if you see anything on the way in your travels or anything that we need to know, just alert us, and we'll put it out there as quickly as we can get it out there.
I will do that. So if you guys could just make sure that call for help for the formula for the caps goes out, I would really appreciate that. And I do have a couple people that asked me if they could send me checks. Yes, I will message anybody who can't do like debit cards. If you go on my Facebook page, message me. I will give you my address, and I will make sure the family gets the money I sent.
Okay, and we have ways of contacting other people that are planning on heading out tomorrow from like Texas and different places, and we'll get word to them that they need to bring calf milk. Okay.
Yeah, if they can bring it, please, because they're down to I think like 2 bags left, and that's it.
Okay, we'll get the word out. Don't worry about it. We'll handle up on that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go because we've got to go.
Thank you for calling.
You're welcome. I'll call you as soon as I see anything at the ranch, okay?
All right,
okay,
but if you got to interrupt us, you just do that, all right? You just call us, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our correspondent, Lisa, who is on site at the Bundy Ranch. All right, now we have our other correspondents on the line, too. So let's open up the microphone. Yes, let's open up Carol Ray's microphone, and I see that Color Me Red is there, too. Red, hang on for a second. Let's talk to Carol and see what she's got to say, and then I'm going to bring you in, okay? So please stick around. All right, Carol Ray, you're live. This is our financial guru, and I'm sure that Carol has a lot of things to tell you about, too, with some of the financial deals that are going on. Welcome, Carol.
Hi. Listen, talking about the BLM, I want to read something that came right off the BLM website. Now, listen to this, people. The BLM manages more than 245 million acres of public land, the most of any federal agency. The land known as the National System of Public Lands, primarily located in 12 western states, including Alaska. The BLM also administrates 700 million acres of subsurface mineral estate throughout the nation. The BLM's mission is to manage and conserve the public lands for the use and enjoyment of present and future generations under our mandate of multiple use and sustained yield. In fiscal year 2013, the BLM generated, now listen, $407 billion in receipts from public lands. The BLM is, as we all know, is a shadow government agency, and they're tied in. They are also, I found on BLM website, Secretary Jewell announces 2 solar projects in California and Nevada. They are selling federal land to private entities who are creating these solar projects and wind projects. People, this is nothing but part of the United Nations Agenda 21, as we have talked about before. They are planning, it says also in here, it talks about the desert tortoise. It says, it talks about solar, let's see, Silver State North Project. Now, that was one of the first projects of the solar. says First Solar has agreed to undertake significant project designs, changes, and mitigation measures to minimize impacts to wildlife, water, historical, cultural, and other resources. And then it goes on and down, and it says the BLM is expanding the nearby Avenpo Desert Wildlife Management Area by more than 20,000 acres and requiring that the developer, apparently it's the one that's creating the solar project, to protect 3 times the area that the project will disturb. And it also goes
there
on
it is.
and talks. Yeah, it says
there it
the
is.
company must also assess the project's potential adverse impact of archaeological properties at the site are found to be eligible for National Register of Historic Place listing. Now, this historic place listing, that will also be connected to the UNESCO before it's over with.
Carol, I'm glad you said that.
It is nothing,
because
people, but grabbing land. Ted Turner is also involved in solar projects in Nevada and other states. If I'm not mistaken, I think, wasn't it Southern Company that he was involved with? Do y'all remember? There's been so much going on. Right. And so he's putting a lot of his money in it, and he is also the one that donated $1 million to the Population Fund of the United Nations concerning controlling population. So, I mean, this is nothing but a global agenda. In 2009, the UN held a conference, investment conference, which a representative of Hillary Clinton at that time, when she was Secretary of Department of State, and Al Gore, George Soros, bank executives like J.P. Morgan, Chase, let's say the union leaders from SEIU plus AFL-CIO, and private investors concerning investing in solar and wind projects. And this conference was being held while the Occupy Wall Street was out protesting against the banks. And, of course, we know that George Soros and them were financing Occupy Wall Street through the back door.
Yep. You know, you just touched on a very important thing, Carol, when you read that, 3 times the area. That's why they want the Bundy's cattle off that ranch. They have to put a solar area up, but they have to have 3 times the area that the solar field is going to take up to use for environmental protection. You know a solar field is going to not only dehydrate, but it's going to fry turtles. So just right there, you know it's not about turtles. You know that they're stripping the water rights because Las Vegas needs the water. They're stripping the mineral rights because they sold out the mineral rights in 29 minutes when they put them up for bid. So,
and also there's something else that we forgot to mention. In September of 2013, they started eliminating these desert turtles. And all because on BLM website it says they were underfunded and they were transferring those turtles to another habitat. No,
and that'll
they
be the second time
actually destroying them. Pardon?
That will be the second time they moved those turtles, too. Originally, when this land was designated as public land through the BLM, one of Harry Reid's cronies had bought a piece of the land on the western side. So they moved the border of this public access land to accommodate Harry Reid's friend. So they had to move the turtles, too. And you're right, they did destroy the turtles.
His friend was developing homes, wasn't he, in the real estate business?
Yep.
That's what I thought. And
he was.
so Harry Reid, even with his son, and listen, people, there is also, and I sent it to the ladies, when was it, Saturday, concerning President Obama and them going to China to discuss solar and wind projects.
Yeah, when they come back, Rory Reid had a new client.
Right. China is investing in solar and wind. Matter of fact, I traced it down. There's a place in Texas where China is involved in. And matter of fact, Texans, that Red River, there's a rancher that's having the same problem at the Red River, Red River, and losing his rights to the water and stuff. So this,
for the desert turtles.
From what I have read over the years, they will control the water, they will control the natural resources, and we would be put in what is a mega region. You can go to America 2050 and look at the map. And this is the stack 'em and pack 'em situation, urbanization. Matter of fact, Andius Duaney attended a meeting in Florida and flat told the people who were there that fascism is efficient. Mega regions will be where everybody will be placed. And he was talking about the United Nations. And the local authority will not have any authority whatsoever. It will be state government in the United Nations.
Wow. This is just incredible.
Right, and the copper mining, I can't understand that because dealing with the financial situation, the copper is plummeting in price. I mean, China is losing, is defaulting on different things because they use copper in their pipes and stuff building those urbanization cities that they're building all over China and all. And I don't understand why there is such an interest in copper mines in Nevada when copper, unless they're going to use them in the solar panels and things like that. I'm not a electrical technology or whatever, and also I don't really understand why they're so very interested in the copper mines.
Wow. Well, now, I know it's a lot to absorb, but, guys, it's not about tortoises. It's about money. It's about power. It's about a global agenda. It's about kickbacks and cronies, and there's even more. There's even more to that.
Well, and let me say this. There is a historical video of Pelosi standing before the Senate after President Bush, attended the Rio Earth Summit in 1992, trying to get the Earth Charter or Agenda 21 to be ratified, and it wasn't. But Bill Clinton went behind through the back doors and created a department called Sustainable Development. And all. So this is, like I said, if everybody can just think and trace back, it all leads to this Agenda 21, because the solar and the wind, controlling the water rights and all is part of Agenda 21. You control the water, you control the food, you control the people.
Right.
And we received, living on a farm, we received a census from the government. It was 25 pages. And this is the first time it had ever had this in it. It wanted to know if we were using solar or wind power. And it also wanted to know what was our water resources.
Yeah, see? Yeah, amazing. Hang in, Carol. I'm going to open up our other correspondent's microphone, too. Color Me Red is here, and she wants to add a little bit about the real estate angle. So let's bring her in, too, and then when Color Me Red is done, we're going to do a little round table and take some questions. So Color Me Red, welcome.
Hi. I just got in the door. I've been driving and listening. Oh, gosh. I'm later. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have my notes or anything.
Well, yeah, but thank you for calling in. I know you had an appointment, but there's some real estate transactions that you wanted to discuss about that area, too. So, want me to give you a minute?
I'm going to take you off speaker. I had you on speaker. Yeah, it was just what I mentioned to you earlier today that about the mitigation, to pay attention to that, because I had a contact me nicely, and say, well, the closest solar plant is like 90 miles away. Well, it has nothing to do with adjacent lands, but whatever they develop, they have to replace and mitigate, and add to. So they need all the land that they can get in order to develop and build out that solar plant.
What does mitigation actually mean?
It's acquiring, replacing land that's developed.
Okay.
And that's also in the BLM document that I read to y'all. So they're planning on expanding the land in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how much
not only do they sell it. Well, they constantly sell and they constantly acquire, and and so it's just a question of how do they acquire. So far, how they've been acquiring land is by shoving or forcing these ranchers off their ranches, and that's not just happening just in Nevada. It's happening in the whole Southwest. They don't want any cows in the Southwest. They just don't.
Well, that guy I talked to today, Mike Knoll, that Utah representative, he said it's important that those cows are on there because it keeps the access open to the land, to the people. That once those cows are off, that's it. He has no rights whatsoever.
And all this is in the Clear Act that I talked about earlier.
Right.
Google Clear Act, the 2009 Clear Act that Gohmert was talking about.
And another thing I want to bring up, I had read in a report from the United Nations where they were discussing about cows, sheep, farm animals destroying the biodiversity, and that only the wealthy will be able to afford meat before it's over.
Well,
they were discussing that today, as a matter of fact.
You can see that going down.
Beef
Obama
is going to be.
He wants to tax cow flatulence.
Yeah.
So they're finding any way they can.
That article I sent you, incidentally, Joanne. You there?
Yes.
That article, about that article that I told you that is more truth in it than not. It talks about the mitigation for solar energy projects, and it says the hinge point of this investigation is, however, the mitigation project for Gold Butte, and that's where he is, which lies just south of Bunkerville, Nevada. That's exactly where he is. A swath of northern Gold Butte is where the Bundy cattle graze. BLM designated Gold Butte as an area of critical environmental concern in 1998. It's one of the several ACECs in Nevada. Two of them are visible, and it's a map. And I'm going to send you this link. I got to get in the chat room. I'm not even there yet. I told you I just got in the door. But the Gold Butte is the larger one to the east, and the Coyote Springs to the west. But it shows on the map, and this whole article is really worth reading all the way through, and it will really help you to understand what's happening there. But his farm is ranch is right in the middle of, he's on Gold Butte Road. So, it's right in the middle of what the land that they need. So they want them
right there, that should tell you that it's not about the turtles, okay, and about this land mitigation. They're going to have excess land so that they can use for these alleged turtles. They hired a Soros-backed company whose specific job is these turtles, to make a big deal out of it and then to enter Friends of Court's briefs. So all of this is coming together now, and like Kelly said, and Carol said, and that guy that I read the report from, they said if you don't use the land, you lose the rights. So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it so if you don't use the land, you're going to lose the rights. All right, our on-the-scene correspondent just raised her hand again, so let's break for her and see what she wants to report. Lisa, you're live.
Hi, guys. Okay, we're back here in Bunkerville, and there's no movement. The only news trucks left are Fox News still has their truck up. Their satellite truck is here, and News 3 is here. The militia has their one camp. There's a couple guys there. So that tells me the majority of them are out at their posts throughout the valley. There's no movement at all at the Bundy house. Everything is quiet.
Wonderful.
There's no air traffic, no helicopters, nothing.
That's good. Maybe some people can get some sleep tonight and rest up.
Yeah, it's very peaceful. There's no movement.
Well, this is quite the battle, and I'm glad you're saying that the folks doing watch are out on their posts, so that works too. Lisa, I want to thank you so much.
Hey, you guys are welcome, Anita. If anybody has any questions, ask me now, because once we start heading back to Vegas, I might
Lisa,
lose it.
I need to ask you a question. Do they need more people there? Would it be a good idea for others to come?
Yes,
Are they going to rotate? Pardon?
The more people that can come, the better.
Okay. All right, folks, you heard that. And the ones that are listening, please, travel to the Bundy's Ranch.
And take calf milk. Take some
calf milk. Exactly.
Don't worry. We're set with water and stuff like that, but the calves need food.
I didn't hear that.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, ask now, because once I start heading back, we go through areas that's very remote out here. I don't get cell signals.
All right, anybody out in the chat room, do you have any questions, or if anybody would like to call in, our telephone number is 714-888-7404. So call in to ask Lisa a question while she still has some signal, and she is on scene at the Bundy Ranch. And while we wait for that, I got to tell you guys.
May I say something else? There's another organization that everybody needs to be alert on, and that is the National Park Association. They are paying lobbyists to go to D.C. in order for land to be placed as national parks. That's another part of Agenda 21. So everybody needs to be very well aware of this organization, and they are environmentalists, global warming. You can go to their website and do some searching in there. You'll see a lot of things. James Hansen, who talks about global warming, has an article on their website, and also everybody really needs to pay attention to that, because they pay for lobbying to expand the land around the Alamo in San Antonio. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was like 135,000 acres in the project. So that is a lot of land, y'all.
And now that Carol brought that up, I want to say something. Just so everybody understands, it was not just the BLM here. There were park rangers here, too. So it was the BLM and Vehicle Park Ranger that were here killing off cattle and mistreating them. It wasn't just the BLM.
I have a question for you. It says the feds rounded up 400 head, but so far the Bundys have recovered 260. That's from the Kelly file. Are the 140 missing still alive? Have they been seen? And how many babies are there that are missing their mothers right now, and mothers missing babies? I heard 11 calves. They couldn't find their mothers.
Right. The ones that are missing, they are assuming they're dead because they can't find them, and then they had 2 more that died late last night. The cows.
Yeah.
The cows actually left their range area, which is very uncommon for them, and made their way all the way out to the highway.
I'm getting an echo from somewhere.
Oh, my.
Hold on a second here.
All
right, how's that, better?
Okay, so the cows actually made their way from the range area, which is several miles to the highway, and they got hit looking for their calves. So what we know is we have about 146 that they believe are dead between moms and calves right now. And the bulls. There were 3 bulls confirmed dead that were shot.
Wow. Why would they shoot them? That's, they can't round them up, so they're going to shoot them?
these are wild bulls, and, you know, I grew up farming, so I know a lot about beef cattle. I raised bull Herefords. If your bull is wild, it's not like you can just go out to the field, grab him, and take him on. These bulls aren't like that. They're wild, and they're just not friendly. But there's no reason to kill them. You know, you can herd a wild bull up. You saw the cowboys on the video do it. There were bulls in the back of the video that my husband shot of the cattle coming around the bend, the river, coming back into their grazing area. There were 3 bulls easily identified there, and those cowboys had not one problem rounding up those bulls and herding them. So there was no excuse for the BLM or the park rangers to drop any of those animals, not one excuse.
They want them off of there one way or another.
Are the Bundys considering... Are they considering a lawsuit for the mistreatment of these animals?
I haven't asked anyone that yet. That's something I want to talk to Margaret or Carol or Susan about. I just haven't had a chance. They were really busy today with the press conference, and I know that, you know, they're worried about Slyman right now. He's very tired. They're worried about his health. So they, you know, as soon as the press conference was over, he did take a few questions, but Sunday they didn't let him do any media. They made him rest. Trust me, when I say they made him rest, they really did, because this man does not stop.
What about a legal team? What about a legal team? Are they putting together some lawyers? I understand that when this originally happened, you know, they just ran out of lawyer money, so they just decided to defend themselves, and they got walked all over. Are there any type of legal lawyers or anybody, organizations, volunteering to help them out?
I can tell you that I've been told by a very, very good source that the largest, most powerful law firm in Las Vegas will be contacting the family this week pro bono.
Oh, that's good to know.
So
yeah, they're gonna need a lot of legal help.
Yeah, this came from a high up militia member, so I'm saying that this information is very credible. I do know that, you know, the BLM. Here's something people need to understand about the BLM here in Nevada. The BLM has never been given legislative rights to do an arrest. Never. There was a bill before in legislature to get it passed, and it failed. So the BLM has no authority to make any kind of arrest on Nevada land. Period.
So they have no authority to have any weapons either, if I'm mistaken. Am I right, ladies?
That's right.
Yeah, why would the BLM...
I need to interrupt you a second. Carol Ray.
Yeah.
You listening, Carol? There's a lot of questions about this milk. Now, if we want to get milk for calves, it has to be bovine specific. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. It can't just be carnation powdered milk. It has to be for cows, for bovine.
Right. Yes, it has to be. It has to be a formula made up for calves. Yes.
Yeah,
and you can normally find that at a farmer's supply store.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna put that out.
Hold on, Lisa. What did you say?
And it probably wouldn't hurt to bring some extra bottles. You can get those at the farmer's stores too.
All right, Lisa, what were you trying to say there about the cows?
The calf milk is powdered and it comes in bags.
Right.
And Carol's right. You can buy it at any feed store. It's all pretty much the same. It's just made for calves. So it comes in, you know, I don't know how many pounds in a bag, maybe 20 pounds, I don't know. But I think it's like one, and here's why they need help. One bag is like $8. And they've got a lot of calves that don't have moms right now.
Right. And a calf has to be fed almost like a baby. I mean, they're babies.
Yeah.
Yep, they're all
They have to be fed on a regular basis.
Yep.
Wow. That's incredible.
So Rick and I are going to be donating money for that too.
All right. Now the feds say that through Breitbart, they said that they were going to handle things judicially. So I'm thinking maybe the Bundys can get back into court and this time maybe have some decent representation.
Yeah, I think that that's how it's going to go. I don't believe that there's going to be any raid on the bar. You know, the feds aren't going to swoop down and arrest him after all of the negative publicity this has gotten lawmakers and Harry Reid. I think it would be absolute political suicide for them to do that. They can't afford it. But I do believe that they are going to be filing a litany of papers this week against Biden. But from what I've been told, he's going to have very good representation pro bono.
Yeah, well, I was wondering what the deal was that ended this to begin with. I know that the sheriff and a couple of people were meeting. Remember, they had that meeting, and then they had the news conference. Was there any type of a deal made or a contract signed before that news conference? That just before. Say it again.
Cliven refused to sign any documents that were put before him. And he said, before we go any further, he said, he told the sheriff, he said, until you do your job and collect every gun off of all of these agents that shouldn't have a firearm, he said, and lay them underneath the American flag, he said, we will not negotiate. He said, this is going to be on my terms. And he said, if you don't like my terms, I'm going to go and take my cattle. And when the sheriff never responded, Cliven even called 911. Cliven, and they're calling 911. He's like, hey, I want to talk to the sheriff. Come back up to the podium. Well, Gillespie just never bothered. He just never bothered to call, never bothered to show back up. So at that point, Cliven told the cowboys up on the hillside on their horses, he said, get your guns, we're going to get the cows. And at that moment, all the cowboys come storming off of the top of the mountain and across the road out into the prairie open, and they were gone. And about 350 to 400 cars tore off towards where the BLM had their makeshift camp set up underneath the underpass.
There's also a story at the GOP Daily Dose saying that the BLM agents that were there feel like they were betrayed and that they were set up to be slaughtered by the BLM. So I think that you're having a little bit of a, I don't know if I think you might be having an in problem there in the BLM. These guys are saying, you sent us out there. Why?
I don't know anything about that, but I can tell you what, if I was one of those guys and I was faced up with 2,000 armed men and women, and there was like 20 of them, I'll tell you what, I would think twice about ever taking an order again.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what these guys are saying. They're saying that they were betrayed, and they feel that the BLM sent them out there to be slaughtered for their agenda. They were supposed to be poster children.
They're lucky they didn't end up slaughtered, because I'll tell you what, how tense it was. If one shot had been fired, I can tell you what, it would have been a bloodbath, and you would have seen a crew of BLM guys laying down.
I got to tell you, with the attention this has gotten, one shot fired, one person gets hurt, or another animal gets hurt. That's not going to stay in Nevada. This whole country will erupt.
I can tell you right now, from what Cliven and them and the family has said, they have gotten outpouring of support worldwide. Every country on the planet has contacted the Bundy family. Every country.
Bundy Ranch has trended on Twitter for the last 5 days in a row at number 1. It's now at number 3, but for 5 days in a row. So all the people that were there, believe me, they were backed up by everybody that we know of on social media, alternative media, even the Facebook pages and Twitter. There wasn't one person who wasn't talking about this, so this is absolutely huge.
That's right. And when stop it had fired, I can tell you that this area would have been inundated with hatred. There would have been thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people here within hours.
Yeah. This is just incredible. I never thought in my day and time would see this. And then, killing baby calves, chasing them down with helicopters. What kind of people do that? And then pen them up and not give them water and food and separate the babies from their mothers? I mean, only a sick person could do that.
And see, cows when it's hot part of the day, they go and lay under shade. And they'll stay with their babies under shade until it starts cooling off, and then that's when they start grazing again. But for the hottest part of the day, they look for shade. And I am so sure that where those corrals where the BLM had them, they had no shade provided for them whatsoever. And they can get stressed out. They can have a heat stroke. To be honest with you, they can have a heat stroke. And from being too hot and not having enough water, that will cause dehydration. That was cruel. That was animal cruelty.
Some of the cows did die of dehydration, and so did some of the calves. And I was, Susan Hardy, one of the sisters, had told me that when they got to the cattle, they could see blood trails from where a baby calf was born to where a BLM agent removed it and drug it out. What happened to it, we don't know. But there were calves being born that day. And there was a couple mama cows that still had still in them.
It's calving season, that's why.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa, is there any other media there other than Fox and Las Vegas Channel 8?
No, they're all gone.
Is InfoWars gone?
I didn't see him when I just went back, but he was there. They had a reporter there earlier today.
Oh.
InfoWars has done a good job. I mean, I talked to them Saturday. They came out. You know, one of their reporters came up and he started asking me questions, interviewed me. I answered his questions honestly. And, you know, afterwards it was so funny because I had told Rick, I said, you know, he's like, Lisa, you did a really good job. I'm like, I don't even remember anything I said. I was like, did I cut? And
yeah, I got to tell you, InfoWars has done a great job. From what I've seen, and I was watching their live feed, the guy with the beard and the mustache and the baseball cap, he was fantastic. He was calm. He was even. He was stuck to all the facts. He was really, really, really good. So, Lisa, do you have any...
And then we had Drudge Report that was posting those articles, too. So a big thanks to Drudge Report for doing that, too, because a lot of people go to Drudge Report and read.
Yes.
And I just want to say to all our listeners, the reason Lisa is breaking up so bad is she's in the middle of nowhere where she has a bad phone signal. That's why her sound is bad.
Yeah.
I'm out in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing here. Nothing.
All right. Well, if you need to call us back in, we got about another 15 minutes of the show.
Okay,
Please
I'm in the area where I'm going to lose you guys because I can see the cell tower disappearing behind me. So I'm going to go ahead and go, but I'll try to listen in to the rest of the show.
All righty. All right. I'll put you on hold, Lisa, so you don't have to hang up. And I want to thank you so much, and you are doing a fantastic job. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa. All right. I'm going to put her back on hold. And, Red, I think it's your phone that was giving us the backscatter, so it seems to be okay now. Yeah, it seems to be okay now. So I've got to tell you, that was an incredible thing. We got to get some milk to these babies, though. You know, if you don't take anything away from this show, please take away that those babies need some of that powdered formula, and as quick as we can get it to them, you know, the better. You know, they're going to die without the formula, and they're missing their mother, and some of the mothers don't have babies. I don't know if the mother will feed a strange baby, though. I don't know about.
No.
So, this is crazy.
Joanne, I got an interesting tweet from Australia, and this goes further to what Carol Ray said. And he said that Bundy is just a pawn in an insidious global sovereign water rights grab. Australia contemplating similar up in the Murray Basin area. So there, you know, it's like happening all over the world. It's not just happening here.
This United Nations Agenda 21 is worldwide. Matter of fact, China met with the European Union president in 2013 to sign more agreements in implementing Agenda 21 in China. So this is worldwide. They are working very hard to take property and water rights from the citizens of the world. Matter of fact, Rothschild and George Soros purchased extremely fertile farmland in Africa. They are growing biofuel while those people are starving to death.
Wow.
So you've got a lot of heavyweight investors that are involved in this. And I know that Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs is really involved in this. Yes, environmental, solar, wind.
Yeah, Red, I think you got to go back to your signal because you're echoing again.
Tell me, I'm going to call back, okay?
All right.
This is irritating. Let me call you back. All right.
All right. Yeah, her phone does that sometimes. She's out there in an area where her cell phone drops off and on. All right, I have another thing I want to bring up. Clark County Commissioner, his name is Tom Collins, he caused an outrage by remarking that Utahns that are planning to travel to Nevada to support Cleveland Bundy in a standoff against the feds better have funeral plans. I don't know if you all heard that, but this is Clark County Commissioner. Actually, he's in the job that Rory Reed used to have. But this guy Collins said they better have funeral plans. This is a official with the government who is advocating for the murder of American citizens. So that man should be removed immediately. So if you're out there in Clark County, this guy said you better have funeral plans if you're supporting Bundy. That, take it on its face value. You know what that means.
I would take that as a threat.
Yep. Red, you're still echoing, honey.
I'm going to listen in, I think. I'm going to just listen in if that's okay. All right, I'll talk to you later.
I'm going to put you back on hold. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our correspondent, Red. Red, thank you so much. I'm going to put you on hold.
Thank you.
If you need to cut in, just press 1 to shut off the little hand, and then press it again, and it'll put it back on. I'll see it.
That's fine.
All right, honey.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, go ahead, Carol. What were you saying?
I said I would take that as a threat.
Oh,
Collins is the guy that's on that assembly bill of the people trying to get the land back to the state, and he's on that board. That's not right.
Wonder how he votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he called the people from Utah inbred bastards. And he said if they were coming to Clark County to support Bundy, they all better have funeral plans.
Yeah, he did.
He said you should turn your asses around and mind your own effing business.
I read that he stood up on a hill and supported Bundy years ago? JoJo on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, obviously they got to him.
Yeah, they did.
This is just absolute insanity.
So even the good guys have the bad guys in there.
Well, I would like to say hello to the federal government and NSA and who else is listening, because obviously they are. We have a lot of audio problems and a lot of clicking and echoing going on, so hope y'all learning something.
Well, there's also a case that set precedent for this. The guy's name is Hage, H-A-G-E, and there was a Chief Justice, Robert C. Jones of the Federal Court of Nevada. He smacked down the high-handed, abusive feds, and he told them that the Bureau of Land Management and the federal government was heavy-handed, that they were purposely putting these people out of business. The case is called Hage versus U.S. Excuse me. It says here, this is from Canada Free Press, Judge Jones bottom lined what the government is doing to ranchers and property owners. Says he and likely other federal court black robes know that the mainstream media goes into overdrive in trying to keep the truth from the masses. It says, tragically, feds harassed rancher Wayne Hage, but he was vindicated 3 years after he died. So the guy never saw a minute of the money. But the judge, it says, in a previous court decision, Senior Judge Lauren Smith referred to the well-publicized Hage lawsuit as a drama worthy of a tragic opera with heroic characters. A federal judge has added $150,000 to the original $4.22 million judgment won by the estate of rancher Wayne Hage in a years-long battle over property rights. And the federal government had asked Senior Judge Lauren Smith to throw out the judgment. Instead, he increased it. Said Hage, a leader of the Sagebrush Rebellion against the federal control of land, was the husband of former Representative Helen Chenoweth Hage of Idaho, and they both died in 2006. But it says the tensions began to mount between the rancher and the U.S. Forestry Service in the 70s, when the agency permitted the introduction of elk to the national forest, resulting in damaged fences and scattered cattle. Anyhow, the guy took them to court over the property rights, and he won. So that case itself could be precedent-setting, especially where there's so many similarities. So that's also something we should keep in mind. You girls got any final comments you want to put out there? Carol,
One thing I would think that we all need to do is start, we've had, I can't speak for all y'all, but I have questioned the GOP actions on a lot of things. If they want to prove to me that they want to do what's right for this country, then they will do an investigation into BLM and its authority concerning having weapons, which they're not supposed to have, and dissolve BLM, or either place it in a different way. In other words, not have complete authority as they are. I would also ask for an investigation into this Project Climate agenda, which was implemented in 2009 concerning using solar power and wind power. They need to investigate the investors who are involved in all this. I think they really need to have a knockdown, drag out, I don't care how many days of complete advertisement or in front of the public hearings, and nothing like what they've had in the past.
And I'd like to give a big shout-out to our friends over at freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio. Thanks for broadcasting our show tonight. I'd like to give a huge shout-out to Mike Nunley and Brent Munlin at The End Within on Block Talk Radio. They're on Thursday nights. Big shout-out to them for all their help with their research in this project. And if this develops, we may be adding some info on The End Within Thursday night. If it develops to something big, I may have to hijack Freebird's show again this Wednesday night. So stay tuned to prnradionetwork.com for updates, or you can check Blog Talk Radio for The End Within on Thursday night. If this develops, we'll be reporting there too. So The End Within, Blog Talk, Thursday, Freebird, probably maybe Wednesday night, PRN Radio Network.
All right. How about you, Kelly?
Well, I've heard people talking about the BLM and their weapons. That Utah representative said that the BLM has the most technical weapons that you can have anywhere. That they're not supposed to have them. Yep, that's what they said. The most technical weapons that you could possibly have. The BLM has them.
The Bureau of Land Management has military-grade weapons.
That's what he said.
Imagine that.
He said it.
Well, you know that Obama has heavily armed the entire federal government. Right. You know, he said he wanted his civilian army, and he got it.
I mean, the Department of Education has weapons. It's ridiculous.
The Social Security Office, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You expecting a rumble with the little old ladies down there, or what?
Well, they must have tuned into our little old ladies, because I don't think they want to mess with this group.
And I'm gonna open up Red's microphone, and as long as I don't talk, it won't echo. And I'm gonna see if Red has any closing comments. Red, you got any closing comments on?
Just to go back to what I had said last week when I first started investigating, that this was huge, and that we all need to be very vigilant, and we need to do our homework, and that means everybody, and everybody needs to really understand what's going on here. Unfortunately, the news broadcasts that I've seen so far still keep referring to the turtle or the tortoise, and they're just so far removed from the real story. I really honestly can't believe it. But in any event,
including Glenn Beck. Including Glenn Beck.
Yeah, including absolutely everybody, and I'm shocked. I'm totally shocked. So we now become the news media. You know, we become our own media because and I do agree with you, Joanna.
Ladies, I'd like to say one more thing. I think we need to thank Teresa Monroe Hamilton from Noisy Room. She has been supportive of everything that we have done. And, she hopes that eventually she'll be able to be on the radio show. And
she's been at the Bundy Ranch, too. Is it noisyroom.net or what is it?
It's Noisy Room, I think it's Noisy Room. You can just type in research or search Noisy Room. But her friend...
Y'all look that girl up.
Right. Her friend is Michelle Fiore. I think she's an assemblywoman for District 4. Mm-hmm. She has been out there with the Bundys. Actually, I had posted a photo of her helping to feed one of the calves. And she wrote a fantastic article, a truthful article about the Bundys. And Teresa has it on her blog. So please, y'all go and read it. Right, because Teresa has been a really big supporter of everything that we've been working on.
Yes, she has.
Well, all right. Well, say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
All right, guys. We hope you enjoyed our show, and we just want to thank everybody for tuning in. All our listeners, all our callers, all the cool people in the chat rooms, PRN, Watchmen, our new listeners over at Revolution Radio at Hawk's Nest, freedomslips.com. We would like to say thank you so much. As always, thank you to my great co-hosts, to my great guests, Lisa, Kel, Carol, Red. Thank you so much. Our production crew, I want to thank you. Stay tuned to PRN Radio Network. Tomorrow night, Bobby and Denise have their show. On Wednesday, it's Watchmen Wednesday. Thursday is in the Doghouse. It's the commemorative show for our old bulldog. And on that note, good night, America.